Yeah, good morning, Alex. No, all fine. Long weekend over and done with and ready for another week's work.
And yeah, I must admit, I can't knock you. You're a busy guy. I've spoken to you a couple of times over the weekend. I'm very grateful for that. And thanks for doing this interview today as well.
That's fine.
Just to pick up on the news last Friday. Obviously, I don't know if people picked up on it. Can you give your overview, your thoughts on the RNS release last Friday to the London stock market, please, Dave?
Yeah, I mean, one of the things we've been looking at is accessing the North American marketplace for trading in Leni Gas Cuba because obviously ISDX people haven't got their minds around the ways of calling a broker like people did in the old time, and unless you can trade online, people just don't seem to care on a retail basis. But yeah, look, the Knowlton Capital deal is certainly of interest to the LGC board. Knowlton is run by some very, very astute Canadian entrepreneurs. And some of the Knowlton board are already LGC shareholders. The guys over there at Knowlton have raised hundreds of millions of dollars on the Canadian market. Mazen, who's the president and CEO, has run a number of big funds over there as well. And, we just thought it was a fast track to getting, Leni Gas Cuba and its assets and what we're doing, interested parties in North America, which is the largest market, for accessing Cuba.
It definitely looks, excuse me, it looks a really good tie between you, Canada and Cuba. It looks a really interesting proposition going forward for you guys.
Well, I mean, if you look at Canada, it's one of the largest trading blocks in Cuba and has been historically. And if you even look at the tourism side, I mean, a third of Cuba's record tourist numbers last year were from Canada. And interestingly enough, most Canadian companies and banks have no problem in dealing with Cuba and haven't done for many decades. So, yeah, unlike the European situation here, Cuba's all a bit of an enigma, but in North America, it's certainly something of very real interest over there. So, the equations were put together. It'll all be, going to shareholders for consideration. And, I see Knowlton Capital's trading at 13 cents bid, even though it's suspended, on the TSX.com website this morning. So, I mean, if you look at that from an equivalent type scenario, that sort of works out at about 3.5p, subject to shareholder approval going through from both ends, on the LGC share price. So, but the main reason I really want to focus on Canada is there is full online trading with the TSXV, and the world can trade. A lot of the world can trade TSXV online and using normal, broker dealers, and that's been one of the problems I've been sort of faced with, and the board's been faced with, for being listed on ISDX. So, it's a process to go through. I would like to see, as Knowlton Capital said in their news release, them to put out the information circular to shareholders sooner rather than later, in the next week or two, and have them come back to trade. And, as we release information as the company grows, whilst we're going through this process of shareholder approval from both sides, they'll obviously be releasing what we'll be releasing because it's sort of interrelated to them.
Yeah. And
we'll let the shareholders decide.
So just to pick up on that one, you look at the Knowlton team, they look very, very strong. And how's their long-term goal fits with the long-term goals of Leni Gas Cuba, as together?
Absolutely. I mean, Knowlton are, some of the Knowlton shareholders are significant shareholders of Leni Gas Cuba shareholders. And, and I said to Mazen Haddad, who's the president and CEO, that, I'd like him to come on as co-president of the merged entity.
Yeah.
And he's very excited about that.
So we did a bit of research on the Knowlton team, and there's some really industry big hitters there. It's very
well. There certainly is, and they're very passionate about Cuba. They're passionate about the way that they can go and help us grow this business. They've got very good access into the North American marketplace with respect to the brokers, the institutions, the family offices that are allowed to trade Cuba because of the OFAC situation, and I think it'll be a good fit.
Definitely, yeah. With the reverse takeover, if and when it proceeds, will result in the shareholders of Leni Gas Cuba holding a majority of the outstanding common shares in the resulting issue.
Yeah.
What's the percentage split?
I think it's about 85% of LGC shareholders within the new structure. So the Knowlton shareholders will end up with about 15%, and LGC shareholders will end up with about 85%. But Knowlton does have some capital in the bank. But more importantly, what they've got is direct access into that that TSX market, which is where we really want to focus.
Yeah. So the next question I would ask, obviously this might be a bit, would the new co consider also listing on the London AIM market?
No.
Right. No problem?
No, I don't think that London is the right place to list Cuba. I think the way the banks handle Cuba from a European perspective work.
Yeah.
And, we need to get ourselves into a marketplace that people do understand Cuba on a daily basis on how Cuba reflects their life over there in North America. So, and the other issue with AIM is that, it's a great market, AIM, and always has been. I've been involved with it for a long time.
Yeah.
The real issue is, the reverse rules really aren't designed, what do they call it? Yeah, reverse, the class tests.
Yeah, they close you down, don't they? But
they really do constrain you on growing a business. So, Leni Gas Cuba is about growing as rapidly as we can into businesses that are expandable in Cuba. And I just think, I just don't want to be spending huge amounts of money going back for, readmission documents as we sort of go through the process of expanding in Cuba.
All right. Obviously, we met up at the Masters show, and you touched on the oil blocks in Cuba.
Block 9.
Yeah. Can you just give us I know you're a busy guy, but can you just give us a quick couple of minutes, because that looks very, very...
Yeah, no, look, Block 9's unique because, MEO Australia and PetroAustralis are one of the few overseas companies that have actually physically been awarded large acreage for oil and gas potential in Cuba. You've got Sherritt Gordon, you've got a lot of national oil companies sort of playing on the offshore sector. But I mean, Block 9 is basically the size of the Weald Basin.
Yeah.
And it sits next to some of the biggest producing fields in Cuba, and is relatively unexplored. But there's been a lot of drilling done in the blocks. MEO Australia have commented in their presentations that they plan to come out with resources and oil in place numbers at the end of the second quarter. That's not too far away. And we're pretty optimistic this is going to be a game changer for the company and also for oil and gas potential in Cuba.
No, that's great. When we last talked, you were very upbeat about delivering shareholder value. What would you say to the buyers who purchased at 5p? Can they look forward to LGC delivering shareholder value, please?
Well, I mean, if you look at the 5p placing, I mean, most of that placing was at 5p was actually taken up by the board. So we've certainly got a long-term vision for where we see the long-term value coming in the company. For those that weren't the board that participated in the 5p placing, we're working hard to get value into the company, but we're working hard to build a business. We're working hard to build businesses that are expandable, that have real legs, and we're not going to rest until such time as the 5p shareholders are feeling like it's been a good investment for them. I think accessing the North American proper market for something like Cuba will generate a lot more interest in liquidity and share trading, and we're genuinely excited. I think 5p share price will be history at some point not too distant in the future.
That's great to hear, because obviously there's been so much noise about that. Dave, I've got to say again, it's so much appreciated, mate, for giving up your time, because I have pestered you over the bang all day, and I know you're a family man.
No, it's fine.
But Thanks very much for your time, LSE Share Talk, okay?
All right, Alex. Cheers.
Cheers.
Bye-bye.